Hi, and welcome to Ask the Manager. I'm at home on my porch, and Kevin is at his house. And you'll notice because I have a yellow wall and he has a blue wall. So with that, we'll get started. And of course, the hot topic for today is COVID-19. And my first question, Kevin, is, of course, how is your family?
Oh, thanks, Donna. It's a pleasure to be with you virtually. Is this the first remote virtual manager, or first virtual remote Ask the Manager? Thanks for asking. Yeah, everyone's healthy. So we're all at home, and just like Shrewsbury Public Schools, Tantasco schools have been out since the end of, 100 years ago at this point, the middle of March. So, yeah, everyone's home.
So what do you do for entertainment?
We've actually been doing a lot of fun stuff, to be honest with you. We, certainly go for walks and get outside, just like, a lot of other folks are doing. But we had a virtual happy hour party with a couple friends on Friday night, and we had a virtual birthday party with some family in my wife's side of the family in New Jersey last night, which honestly, we would not have went to the birthday party if it was a weeknight in New Jersey, since, we live in Massachusetts. So it was interesting and fun to be a part of. So I think we're all learning creative ways to deal with this and still find ways to be physically distant, but socially connected. So it's been good.
We'll probably be more socially connected now with birthday parties or family events from across the country. We will have more creative ways to stay in touch. I know
Absolutely.
I've stayed in touch with family across the country, and also friends that I haven't spoken to in a long time. It gives us time to actually stop and take notice and realize that we need to be in touch with some important people. Along with that, of course, a lot of foolish TV, and other than keeping informed with what's happening in the world and in our country and in our state. I think our governor and lieutenant governor have been doing an excellent job at, number one, keeping us informed, but also with their actions. They clearly take good advice from the experts, and I think they've done a really good job.
I have to agree. We're getting a lot of good information from the state. It's consistent, it's reliable. I've been personally fortunate to be able to have conversations with the lieutenant governor, with Representative Kane, to both provide input and stay up to date on things that they're doing at the state level. So I've been very fortunate with that. I have to thank them for their leadership at this time.
We saw yesterday that they're going to be opening the DCU Center to provide extra beds. Is there any plans for Shrewsbury to be participating in that with any of the properties that we have in town?
We have not been contacted for any type of medical facilities or any places to have infected individuals go to. So not at this time.
And speaking of that, I think it's pretty much a big honor to have the testing center for first responders and other specific individuals at CVS on Route 9 and South Street. I think that is, first of all, we are central, so it's a practical location, but I think it also goes to the credit of our people that are involved with emergency preparedness in town. And I'm sure that their participation, along with the lieutenant governor and the governor, bringing that to Shrewsbury was a practical thing to do.
Yeah, we have been fortunate to be able to assist CVS and FEMA and the United States Public Health Service in standing up that facility. And it has been rather successful testing, probably close to, well over 500, if not closer to 1,000 people at this point through that site. It hasn't caused any challenges that we have not been able to deal with. We are providing support. We provided initial stand-up support and certifying all the tents and facilities, et cetera, that are on site from a safety standpoint. And we've otherwise just provided assistance with security and traffic logistics through the police department for the site. Having it in town has caused some challenges, and folks looking for their test results calling our public health department. So, that's been one hurdle that we've had to overcome, and we're working with CVS and Quest Labs to be able to get those folks to where they need to be and figure out how to get their own test results. It's not through the Shrewsbury Board of Health. So, that has to be, the one challenge, but otherwise, there has been a benefit of being able to have personal interactions with the folks that are responsible for the activities on site, and making sure that, first responders are able to be tested if needed to be.
I'm sure they probably realize by now, if they give people a number when they pass through, that they would follow up with the number that they've been provided. But it does seem logical that if they don't have that information, that they would call Shrewsbury.
Right.
So how is Shrewsbury handling this pandemic as far as Shrewsbury residents and people passing through?
Right. Yeah, I think, from the town perspective, we've been doing a lot to be able to provide support for the residents. I was trying to think of, how long we've actually been understanding what's going on. It seems like the last 3 weeks have been a blur, but going back and trying to review some of my notes and emails, I actually got the first briefing from our public health director, Karen Clark, 65 days ago, the last week of January. So through the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance, they provided us with notification near the end of January. But then there was a bit of a lull until, the things or the pandemic on a global level really started to, get closer and closer to the U.S. And near the end of February, we started enhanced cleanings of our public buildings and our schools, and really started to pay attention to this. And that led us into the first week of March, where I reached out to all of our public safety entities and requested a report on their personal protective equipment and continuity of operation plans that we already have in place. We plan for this all the time. Not anything on this scale, but we have plans that can be adapted, and we have benefited from the leadership and the police department, fire department, and emergency management. And that led us to a whole series of operational changes, starting the middle of March, that I'd be happy to detail. And it leads us here today to having public schools, public buildings closed to the public, and working on a very thin on-site staff at the town hall and in other town facilities, in order to continue to ensure that we have continuity of operations for all departments, and they can continue to operate on a full-scale basis when we need them.
So I firmly believe that the school committee and the superintendent made a great call when they called off school for, as early as they did. I think that was a wise move. And I think I'm assuming they'll extend it. Well, they have to extend it because the governor put a date of, was it May 4th?
Yeah,
so,
May 4th.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it gets extended beyond that. But I think it's wise that they're taking it just several weeks at a time, because then that way they can really have the big picture of what's happening. So I think that there's been a lot of wise decisions made. And you made a point of talking about the emergency preparedness, and that in many aspects, the town is already prepared and has been prepared, because that's what they practice and that's what they work on. I want to say at least annually, but more than that. And I know that hospitals also do that. So to some degree, a lot of the preparedness just kicks in as automatic. But I do get concerned about our first responders and our fire and police, because they're still, crime, for example, still continues to go on. So we have to also remember, as we're watching, that fire and police still have to do their job along with the EMTs. So that's always a big concern of mine. And for the medical people, we have a lot of medical people that live in town, whether it be doctors and nurses, but we also have people that work in housekeeping and laboratory and radiology. I mean, there's so many aspects, dietary, to the functions in a hospital. So that doesn't stop no matter what. So if it's Christmas and if it's Thanksgiving, those people show up at work. Well, now they're showing up at work in a crisis, and that crisis in our area is only going to get worse over the next month. So I think that we need to realize that we may have people in our neighborhoods that work in hospitals, and think about what we can do for them.
Yeah, definitely. We're very grateful. We do, of course, we are still operating every department, and there's critical things that we need to do to make sure that our water system is operating, and public safety forces are in effect, and we're able to do everything, on a day-to-day basis as routinely as we always do, but just taking a different approach to make sure that there's additional personal safety considerations that are put in place by those individuals. So we are continuing to, operate from public safety standpoint, police, fire, EMS, at 100% operations. We have not had widespread outbreak in any of those. But should that occur, we're working with state police, National Guard, and surrounding fire and EMS entities to be able to both support them and have them support us should staffing shortages become an issue.
Now, I just read that there were a lot of people applying for handgun permits. Have we seen an increase in handgun permits in our town?
I haven't talked to the chief about that, to be honest with you. It wouldn't be surprised if I have heard of that statewide and national trend. I don't know if there's any reason behind that, but I'm really not up to speed on what we're doing as far as handling that volume.
Who's our lead person in Shrewsbury for all of the COVID-19 issues? Who's the main person?
Well, I think we have a number of different main people, given the diversity of what it is we do. On the front lines with public health, it is, Karen Clark. She's our director of public health that, works for the city of Worcester and the entire Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance. As far as interaction with public health, that's my responsibility. But then as we work our way through all the facets that we're dealing with, we have the assistant town manager, Kristen Lass, is dealing with all the financial aspects of this, which is both tracking our costs internally, managing external grants, finding funding sources. From an emergency management standpoint, it continues to be Deputy Chief Colby, who's orchestrating and securing personal protective equipment for all aspects of the town. It still remains, really all hands on deck. We've been having daily department head meetings at 1 o'clock. Such a critical part of our operation as we've transitioned to more remote work environment, which is something that we never tested before. Our IT team and CIO John Covey has played an important role. In front of me here looks like my office in Shrewsbury. I have my computer and everything set up. We're working on some challenges that we still have with remote telephone and being able to get more people off site. So we have a lot of leaders in town that we're relying upon. And everyone plays a really important role in making this all work.
So you have an awful lot of people in various offices within town hall. How do you space them out?
So we went to what we call alternative staffing plans the middle of the week of sometime around March 18th. So after we closed the building to the public, the reason we closed the building to the public at that time was to make sure that no single person or a group of people could come in and visit multiple offices and expose our employees and put us in a situation where we had a mass staffing, a significant amount of staff compromised, through the unknowing actions of any individual. So, but once we closed the buildings, we also realized that in some ways we're compromising each other. So we went to 3 different teams, an A team, a B team, and a C team, and they're working on rotating weekly basis. So this week, the week of today's April 2nd, is a B week. That means, the B team is off-site, which includes me, and A team is on-site. So within our office, we have 2, the office of the town manager, the assistant manager is in the office along with an administrative assistant, and the rest of us are home. So we really have a much thinner crew in some of the other offices. So it's not just split 50-50. We also have a C team of people that are permanently home and permanently working from a remote environment, most everyone at home. But we all are still working. And we originally started with a C team with those people who may, because of age or other complications or medical conditions, shouldn't be exposed at all. But over time, as the governor has put in place essential only business orders, we've really reduced the number of people that we have on site because we saw that we could replicate what we were doing with A and B and further reduce staff exposure. So really at any given time, no department has more than 2 people in it. And oftentimes there's only 1 person physically on site. But buildings like our library and Council on Aging don't have any employees in them right now, and they're all working from their remote environment.
I commend you for that. I think that's really good judgment, and it's keeping people safe, and you're still accomplishing what needs to be done. And I think that I know that it was a good call to close the building and all public buildings. I think that that's the way you're going to stop the spread. So I commend you for that. Now, are you having a problem getting personal protective equipment?
It hasn't been the easiest process. We have received some PPE from MEMA, and I have to tip my hat to Ron Allery for still having a very sharp brain, because he reminded us that we still had N95 masks and other things left over from swine flu in storage. So we accessed a significant number of masks and gloves earlier this week that we've deployed to our resources internally within the town of Shrewsbury, and have actually been able to share some more like surgical type masks with other first responder entities and hospitals within the city of Worcester. So we're okay right now.
And you're working very closely with the city of Worcester as a result of the regional group that we have in place. And with that, the leadership through Dr. Michael Hirsch. Just for a little piece of information, for years I worked with him bringing babies to the OR, and he's an outstanding surgeon. So from my perspective, you have we're very fortunate to have a physician like that in charge. He's just someone to be respected, and it makes me think when I see him on the TV, or when I see Dr. Anthony Fauci on TV, it's like we have really good, we're very lucky to have such representation right at our fingertips, and I think we'll always have good guidance and good judgment as a result of that. Now, how many cases do we have? When did we get our first case?
Oh, that's a great question.
Was it about a week ago?
Yeah, it was a little over a week ago. I think it was the beginning of the last full week in March. I should have looked at that. Um, as of today, it is 4 o'clock ish on April 2nd. We been notified of 4 additional cases today, pushing the total to 33.
So hopefully that'll slow down. Hopefully people will be mindful and stay put, and it'll still go up, but hopefully the curve will be decreased.
Yeah, we've had some big days recently. We had a couple of days ago, we had 11 new cases. Yesterday, we announced 8 new cases. Today, 4 additional cases, but there have been some days where it's only 1 or 2, but every day since the first day, I think the second day we didn't have any, but yeah, we've had a consistent amount.
Have we had any deaths that you're aware of?
We are not being provided death information. It's my understanding that the State Department of Public Health is maintaining details on that at their level and only providing information out through the state DPH on a county by county basis. So we honestly do not know if any Shrewsbury residents have passed because of COVID-19. If there are any that have, our thoughts and prayers are with their families.
Do we have any employees or first responders that are positive?
Not at this time, no.
Well, that's fortunate. Hopefully we can hold that off as long as possible. I noticed you've had a lot of meetings. Now you have the Board of Selectmen online, virtual meetings, along with other meetings. The school committee has been done that way. It seems to be working out quite well.
Yeah, we're very happy. Tip my hat again to Mark Serra for his support that he provides us to enable us to be able to meet like this and really make it look seamless. It's not easy. So we have to thank him. We're also very well set up with, we use the Google Suite as our underlying backbone for our email system. And we enjoy the benefits of their video and teleconferencing. We think it's been very successful, and while we're in this environment, we're fortunate that the state has passed legislation to allow us to operate this way because it's critical. We are continuing to have, essential meetings. We had a ZBA meeting the other night that include public hearings. We have a planning board meeting tonight that will be conducted virtually. School committee's now met twice. So yeah, we're finding success, and just very fortunate for people like Mark to help us out and continue to allow us to conduct business.
Do you have plans for town meeting?
No, we don't have official plans. I can tell you that more than likely it will not happen as scheduled, and more than likely the election will not happen as currently scheduled, but we're still working out details on that. We're waiting for a second piece of critical legislation to be pushed through the State House relative to additional actions that the Board of Selectmen can take to provide relief to taxpayers as far as tax bill dates and everything. And as soon as that makes it to the governor's desk and he signs it, which should be within the next few business days, the Board of Selectmen will likely call a special meeting and address the residents with relief and provide some further guidance on timing for those 2 events.
What's the impact of this on town finances?
Ooh, that's the $1 million question. Yeah, there is impact. I can tell you right now on the cost side, there's not a significant impact. We're not spending a lot of extra money at this point in time. I'm more for fiscal year 20. I'm more worried about the revenues. The state has made changes to benefit businesses, especially on the excise tax side, which is prudent, but, we will see a reduction in meals tax excise. There's not as many building permits being issued, although there still are some. So there'll be dribs and drabs and as we delay tax bills, if we're able to do that, it will, provide a lag and reduce, the amount of revenue that we had anticipated this year. I'm much more concerned every day about fiscal year 21, the impact that these challenging times will have on the state budget. We're seeing estimates of over $3 billion in revenue reductions at the state, and that will all trickle down. So it's really unknown at this time. We're doing everything we can to mitigate costs and, reduce costs where we can. Something simple is we don't have contracted cleaners working anymore. We've canceled those contracts because we don't have people in our buildings. So simple things like that we can do to save funds for another day, we certainly are doing that. And it's really to be determined. I think I've seen a lot of people comment that, the economic impact will, trail the public health impact. So we're still focused on the public health impact. And once the dust settles on that, we'll better understand the short and long-term economic impact and financial impact on the town.
Now, our water usage must be up. I assume we're all using more than 65 gallons per person per day. Now that you have so many people at home and not at work, I'm just assuming that the state will be forgiving of that as they reflect on the usage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of extra residential reduction, or a little bit of extra residential consumption, but a little bit of reduction in business consumption. So we're not trending at anything that we really can't manage at this point. Public water supply is still up and functioning very well. We have adequate chemicals, and we have an adequate pipeline of those supplies. So it's all those things. A resident may be thinking about what they need to get at the grocery store for a longer period of time, and we're similarly thinking, how much chemicals do we have on supply, are fuel tanks full, and all those things. So, it's really impacting every department, and we've been hyper focused on it. I've seen some rays of sunshine this week of normal business and town operations just because we have a longer horizon, knowing that now we're in this environment through the end of April. And we don't like to stick that milestone too far out there and keep the economy shut down, but allowing us to have the opportunity of knowing that we're in an environment of not day to day, but the next month also provides us some opportunity of some type of normalcy in how we're operating the town.
There's a lot of social isolation. So for people who don't live with anyone else, I'm sure that's difficult, along with the fact that when there are deaths in a family right now, that's very difficult, and the funeral homes are going to be very busy once we get a break from this. I did find it interesting that Governor Baker mandated no reusable bags in the grocery store. And I just want to say, if you remember, I said those bags are going to have germs and you're going to be passing them back and forth. Well, evidently the governor knows that. And so I think it'll be interesting to see who wants to use a reusable bag once this is done. Not because it wasn't good for the environment, but that you are passing bacteria back and forth to one another. We limited our time here to just talking about COVID-19. Perhaps we'll have another call in the near future, and maybe not wait the month to talk about the other items that are actually taking place in town. But our time is up, and I just want to thank Mark for such a great job. This was very easy between Mark and my son. I just had to sit down, put my earplugs in, and look cute, and that's all I had to do. But I just want everyone to take it easy at home, enjoy one another, and stay in as much as you can. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.